What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Real Reds Talk, an authentic football fan channel made in Manchester. This is your Saturday afternoon news show with me, myself, and Mr. Sam McCabe alongside me. We are both gonna discuss Ten Hag's comments from his press conference last night. He speaks about Mason Mount, Marcus Rashford, Antony, talks about transfers as well. We also have updates on Ligt and Mazraoui coming in this morning from Germany. And we're going to discuss the Arsenal game tonight as well. A little mini preview for you guys towards the end of the show. So make sure you smash that like button. It is the weekend. It's a nice news show. So all positive vibes as we go into these topics on the table. Now, Sam, Ten Hag's press conference. A couple of interesting quotes coming out from this. I want to touch on the transfers and the squad kind of dynamic first, and then we can dive into like the individuals. So I'll read this quote out for you, and then I'll get your reaction. I want the squad as strong as possible. We already made 2 very good buys, so when everyone is fit, we have a team that can beat everyone. But with squad depth, we need to catch up because we had injuries. This season will be survival of the fittest. My question to you is, if we end the window with, let's say, Xerxes, Yoro, Ugarte, Mazraoui, and let's say Ligt happens, is that suffice to go into next season?
I think it's addressed a lot of the issues that we were saying that needed addressing. We obviously need a striker. We've addressed that. Got backup in for Rasmus Højlund. We needed centre back, arguably 2, with Rafael Varane leaving, and then Willy Kambala leaving. So arguably needed 2. So if we do get Ligt over the line with Yoro, we've addressed that with 2 quality centre backs. And then the right back one, again, we discussed this. Was it yesterday or the day before? We discussed the right back situation.
Yeah.
I don't understand why we're doing this. I think left back is more of an urgency and more of a problem area, but it is what it is. But apparently, I've seen stuff from like tactical people who were saying they're probably going to play Dalot more on the left, and then Mazraoui is going to play right, and that's how they're going to handle it. So when you've got like a Salah or something on that side, then they switch Dalot over there, and that's how they're going to. I don't know how true that is, but that's what I've seen. So that doesn't make sense to me. Awate needed, I'd say another central midfielder is needed, arguably. I think we need 2. Yeah. So I think we would be a little bit short in a central midfield if we just got Awate in. So I'd say I'd go out and get either the Rabiot or go get the Amrabat deal. Do one of those. So we've got a bit of squad depth. That's what I would do. And then you've got Toby Collier. We'll touch on Mason Mount later. And then I think you've got a bit of depth there to work with. But I think if we only get the 1 in, it might leave us a bit short, in my opinion.
I think in an ideal world, you'd want Zubamende and Ugarte for different kind of profiles, different prototypes.
That's 110 million, though.
Yeah, so
spending that.
Of course, it is, and the way they're going at the minute, it looks like they're only looking to spend 30 to 40 on each player, don't it? I mean, Xerxes was 30, Yoro with the exception, but that's because Real Madrid and generational, and yeah, everything that kind of comes with it. So that was worth it. I mean, you can already see he's going to be worth it. I don't care if people say that's too early to judge him. I think he's going to be worth it. I think he's going to be a really good centre back. Yeah. So that's an exception. But then look at Ligt, like the offers we put in for him. Look at Ugarte, 38 million. They all seem to be between that bracket. So they've obviously got a budget in mind. Yep. If they do end up paying that, so the players that I mentioned there, Xerxes was 34.
Yeah.
Yoro 50. Ugarte 30.
Xerxes was a little more, wasn't it? Because we had to pay slightly over release clause to get him on payment terms to pay, like, was it 10 million a year or something? So I think it was a little bit more. But
you're correct,
not
spot
much.
On. So you're looking around 150, 160 for what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players.
Pretty good.
Which is not bad at all. Yeah. Not bad at all. You know, previous regime we played 200 million for 2 players. So
yeah.
I'm relatively happy with that. And I would say it's a pretty successful window. For you first, for building blocks, what we need, 5, 6 players, you can't complain with that, innit? That's like a solid 8, 9 out of 10, surely.
On top of that as well, we've sold players, which historically we've not been able to do. We've got Mason Greenwood out the door for 34 million. Oh no, less, wasn't it? 26.
No, yeah. So it 26 with a couple of add-ons, and then there's loads of things in there.
Yeah, sell-on clause and what have you. And you got Willy Kambala out the door for 10 million. Donny out the door, which I know it was a low fee, but apparently the add-ons and stuff are quite easily to be achieved. So you could end up with like closer to sort of 10, 15 million. we're trying to get people out the door like Hannibal, Scott McTominay might go, Wan-Bissaka might go. I'm sure there's a few others as well, like Polistri, etc. So that's historically where we've fallen down. We've never had a problem with spending money. We've always spent money. It's just selling people we've historically failed at, but we seem to have arrested that a little bit. I would like to see a few faces go out the door, to be honest with you. I'd like to see a few more. I'd like to see the likes of Lindelof go. I'd like to see the likes of Polistri go and stuff like that, just to get some money in and free up some space for the likes of, say, a new Dillitt's coming in, or like on the wing side, Ahmad gets more time if there's no Polistri in his way, etc. So I think I would want to see a bit more sales, but I'm sure that'll happen over time.
Yeah, in terms of selling players, you need players to perform so their value doesn't completely drop off the face of a cliff. And I think the issue that we've got in a minute, Anthony, since we bought him, there is no doubt that his value has gone right down, probably by half.
Well, he was rated,
if not more.
He's rated what by Ollie 25 million when Ollie looked at him, and we paid close to 90. Is he even worth 25 at this point?
I'd probably say that would be if we were to sell him now. You ain't getting anywhere near 40, 50 million, I don't think.
I don't think we'd get 25. I think we're looking at like 15.
It'd be a struggle. Sancho, we can't even get 40 for.
What's the wages? Minute, so that's, the wages are the problem with Sancho. That's the issue. I think if Sancho was on 170, 180k a week, I think we'd get him out the door like that. I think the 350, is it 350 or 375 he's on? I'm not sure.
350.
That's what the problem is, because Dortmund want him, but they're not going to pay the wages. PSG are interested, but even that is like quite rich for their taste in terms of like wages and stuff. So I think that's the issue with Sancho. I think he would have been out the door had it not been for those.
Yeah, the point I'm making though is like the value's just plummeted, hasn't it?
Oh yeah.
So if I'm United now, I'm looking at the current crop of players, and I'm like, we need to get them back to a level where, you know, it's like you can't get away from clubs wanting them and pushing and competing and upping that price. And I think that's where we should start with this press conference and a couple of quotes, because he speaks about Antony and Marcus Rashford, and he got asked about like how he sees them going into the season. He says, I think for every individual it's different and no one is the same. No one has the same background, but it's clear we want to win and we need good players, and both of them are very good players. On Marcus Rashford, he said, I'm confident and 100% believe he can do what he did 2 years ago, scoring 30 goals. He is capable of it. Now, I know it's always if, buts and coconuts, Sam, but if we can get the best out of these wingers, that could be very dangerous for any team. Like, let's say we get Sancho back to the level we know, Antony lives up to his potential. When you look at it selection-wise, we've actually got quite a lot of different wingers, haven't we, in that sense?
Yeah, you've got different options. Obviously, you've got direct wingers in terms of, like, Rashford and Garnacho, who just want to run at defenders and fullbacks, cut inside and get a shot off. Antony's similar in that vein. He's obviously not as quick. He's obviously not as sort of willing to run at defenders, but he does want to cut in and shoot. But then you've got the slightly different on the other side. You've got Sancho and Ahmad, who very much want to play with players, 1-2s, quick feet, dribbles, and then passes or cutbacks across the goal, and sometimes a bit of crossing. So you got very two different dynamics there. So you can essentially set up in different ways. Like, say you want to sort of play very close, tight football around the opposition box. You bring in Sancho on the left and Ahmad on the right, theoretically. Or maybe you chuck a Xerxes in there in the middle instead of Højlund. Or you could put Højlund there as well, because they're willing to pay off that. Or
you could put Xerxes in the middle and then Garnacho and Rashford more direct inside forwards.
Yeah, so you've got options there. You can switch it up, and then, like you said, if you want to go more direct, you think, the opposition fullback looks a bit suspect and they don't like having players run at him, you bring a Rashford in, you bring a Garnacho in who will run at him and make it problem for him. And then if they've got an option like Xerxes who likes to drop in, they know they've got that option there, rather than Højlund who's just steaming into the 6-yard box and wants the tap in. So yeah, you've got options there going forward, but it's just all about those players clicking and hitting a level of performance. Because we saw with Rashford, he didn't hit it last year, just awful. We saw with Antony, awful. We saw with Sancho under Ten Hag, there's just something wasn't right there. He showed a good game at Dortmund, but apart from that game, he was all right, I guess. And then Ahmad obviously didn't get minutes. The only other one who stood out and who was consistently decent was Garnacho, arguably. So you need, what have we got, 5 wingers? You need at least 3 of them firing, don't you? You can't just have one, because otherwise then it's just very predictable down one side and then you're sort of stuck.
And you mentioned versatility there and options and different tactical tweaks and setups and things like that. Mason Mount very much fits into that category. And Ten Hag touched on this. He said you can't judge him this season, last season, sorry, because he was injured. Don't judge him. But when he is fit, he will be a very good player for us and we can use him. Versatile, it'll help us a lot. You need individuals, multifunctional players. And yeah, definitely he is one of those. He can play in several positions and I'm sure he will help the team. There was a stat today on Twitter as well from H, who does like the analysis for the overlap and stuff. And he put about Mount, he wins the most balls per 90 out of any member in our squad. So shows a lot of people were questioning Mount the signing at the time, but it shows the intent of why Ten Hag wants him in the team. You look at players like Fabian Ruiz, Daley Blind, Llorente for Atletico Madrid. They can be used in loads, like on the wing, midfield, 10, wherever you want. Are you expecting that from Mount this season if he does stay fit?
You'd hope so, wouldn't you? You really hope so. Like I didn't understand the Mount signing initially when we got him. Like
Yeah.
I didn't
Like a lot of people.
why we got him. But his qualities are clear. Like you saw when he was at Chelsea, he was player of the year, Champions League final, scoring important goal, and he was integral to that Chelsea team. Like he was one of their key linchpins, and I think that's why Chelsea fans are so upset that he left because they knew how important he was. And then they're trying to recreate it with Conor Gallagher, but I don't think Conor Gallagher has the same level that Mason Mount has. But,
no, it's just an industrious runner in a Gallagher.
And then you saw under Southgate, who, again, I don't like Southgate and stuff, but he was extremely important to Southgate. He always played Mount. He always played because he knew the amount of hard work he put in that sort of midfield and forward line. So the fact that he's versatile and he can play different positions only helps him. That he can drop into the right hand side. He can play the 8. He can play the 10. And I hope he can stay fit this season. I just hope he can stay fit because I criticise the transfer, but I want to see something from it. I want to see positive things from it. If I can get that this season, it'll win me over because I think he seems like a good lad. He seems like he wants to be here. He seems like he's up for it. Just injuries have sort of ruined his season as it did with a lot of players. But yeah, I'm interested to see where he plays, how he's used, how often he gets to play, the rotation, because Ten Hag has to rotate this season. He has to, because last season it was just dire, and we need to rotate to avoid similar injuries like accumulating like we did last season.
Well, he said survival of the fittest, and he literally said that in the press conference. It's survival of the fittest because he knows the fixture congestion that's coming up. You are definitely 100% going to need players like that. And I think Ineos will be looking at that and thinking, we cannot have another season that happened last year. We just can't for many, many reasons. So if we have... That's why people are questioning, like, why are they going for left back if they've got Malacia and Shaw? It's like, because we can't count on him. You simply cannot count on him. And just having a left-footed there brings so much more balance to someone who's naturally in that position. I understand why they're doing it. But yeah, there's no doubt we're going to need them kind of players, Mount, Xerxes, depth in the centre-back areas as well.
You need to rotate certain players. So it's like, obviously, Dalot played, I think he was the only player who played every game, I think, last season, wasn't he? I don't think he missed it.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Which is fantastic, and you love to see it. But what happens when he gets an injury? You're kind of stuck. Like, you're kind of stuck with like what to do there. Bruno, a similar thing. He played nearly every game, and then you saw his body breaking down towards the end.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So it's just like you need to give people like Bruno a night off every so often. So you can put Mount in there when you need to, or put Xerxes in there, or put Ahmad in there. Rotate those positions because we saw Luke Shaw, the amount of times we forced him back last year because we were so desperate because we didn't have a left back and then he got re-injured. So it's just like rotation has to be a key this year. We have to give, if players start redlining it and you think we're one step away from injury here, take him out of the team, rest him, bring somebody else in, freshen it up. And that's why squad depth is important. And that's why transfers are important as well.
Yeah. And speaking about transfers in the right back area, we have got updates on Mazraoui and Matthias de Ligt, both former players under our current coach, Erik Ten Hag. His agent, Rafaela Pimento, remains in direct talks with United about de Ligt and Mazraoui because he represents both. Both players are concrete transfer targets for United, and both are keen to join the club this window. Talks ongoing. Bayern Munich need sales. And this is from Romano. Mazraoui has given total priority to United. He would love the move and is waiting for the club. An agreement on personal terms will not be a problem, but United will only sign a right back if Aaron Wan-Bissaka leaves. So the situation we're in at the minute, it seems like we need both sales in both departments to bring these in. Are you kind of touched on it a little bit before? Are you happy with the pace that we're making of sales? Have we done enough? Do you think we should have sold more?
You always want to sell more, don't you? Like, there's players there that have got value and you could get quite a bit of chunk of money for. Maguire comes to mind. Scott McTominay comes to mind. I think they both had very good seasons for us last year, and there was people interested in him the summer before when arguably didn't have a great season, and I think they've had better seasons. So you think they're sellable assets, and obviously they're both. Well, Scott McTominay is English technically because he's got a Lancashire accent, but his family's Scottish. I get what people mean. English tax, Premier League tax, so you could get a bit of change for that, but it doesn't seem like there's any movement on either of them. Like, it just seems like Fulham offered 17 million, which is ridiculous. Like, get fucked with that bid. So yeah, it doesn't seem there's any movement. So we're having to rely on the sort of bit part players or the fringe players like the Lindelofs and Wan-Bissaka, who's in the last year of his deal, and just get these like 10, 15 million bits here, there, and everywhere just to help us with PSR and stuff like that. But I think there's more valuable players in the squad you could push. But obviously, United are not doing that at the minute because they're not getting the bids that they find acceptable in. So it's a tricky situation, really.
It is. I'm looking at the players you mentioned there, and because of their contractual situation, so Wan-Bissaka, for example, I believe is definitely a 25 to 30 million pound player, but because he's got 1 year left, teams just simply aren't going to pay that because they know they can just get him on a free next season. Maguire, I believe, what is he, 30, 31 now, I think, Harry Maguire. In terms of the season he had last year, he was pretty good for us, the majority of the parts. Played injured, missed the Euros and the FA Cup final because of that, don't forget. I think a lot of people seem to forget that. Put his body on the line. And that's why I'm not as eager to move him on. Like, if an offer came in, I'd accept it. It's
that's
fine.
What I'm
but
saying.
let's say,
I'm not saying force him out the door, but he's valuable. Like, he's one you could get a decent price for.
Yeah, I think if he went to, there's no doubt in my mind, if he went to an Everton or West Ham now, he'd be successful and he'd be one of their leaders and captain material, no doubt, because you could play a certain system with him. But I think even if we had Lissandro, Maguire is the understudy there, De Ligt and Euro, I'd be pretty happy with that as like a selection of 4 centre-backs. I don't think that's too bad.
Yeah.
And obviously you've got Evans there as well on the 1 year in case we need to kind of bring him in, who always does a job. So centre-backs wise, I'd be happy, but I don't know with the Branthwaite thing and then De Ligt. I'm like, is it one or the other, or do you know? Because one's predominantly a left centre back, De Ligt would likely play on the right. So why are they speaking to both, or is it just if one happens, forget the other? That's what I'm interested in.
I think Branthwaite was probably the long term option. He's the option of like he's going to be the long term option there, and then Yoro's going to be the one that they blood in and get up to, and eventually maybe you have both of them at the same time, or maybe one plays when Lissandro doesn't, or what have you. And then De Ligt, I think, was an opportunity because obviously Bayern need to sell. It's a decent price, or United think we can get for a decent price. Ten Hag's worked with him before. He's young and he's a quality player, an experienced player as well, which I think ticks a lot of boxes. And so I think if they could get both for a decent price, they probably would. But I think at the prices that Everton's quoting for Branthwaite and why Bayern is sticking to is probably like one or the other at this point, unless both of them come down dramatically, and then you could get both for say 35 each. But I don't see that happening personally.
Yeah, I have to say, I know it's only been one preseason game, but from what I've seen of Euro already, I'm like, I like the look of this kid. And I think he could be a signing that you look back and you go, and some people moan about the price tag at the time, but in a few years, they'd be like, that is worth every fucking penny, 50 million quid, every single penny.
We paid how much for Lissandro? 48? 50.
Yeah, similar
Is
thing.
anybody mentioned his price tag?
Nah, no one gives a fuck.
Exactly.
No one gives a fuck.
Like, he's been excellent. So it's just like, once they shut the haters up, the price tag's irrelevant.
And he's 5 years older than Yoro when we
Yeah.
signed him. He was 23, I think, when we signed
Yeah.
Lissandro, 23, 24. Yoro's 18. There is so much room for progression and improvement. That's what excites me the most. And I'm hoping, obviously, we haven't got Xerxes with us, so we've only signed 2 players. He's not going to be with us tonight when we play Arsenal. It's just going to be Yoro probably starting it again. But it's still exciting, isn't it? You know, Arsenal, SoFi Stadium, almost a year from the last time we played him, I think, when Kobe was basically Declan Rice's dad. It was really, really impressive. Just on that game, what are you expecting tonight?
More minutes for young players, fitness for others like Yoro, like Rashford, people like that. Get minutes in the legs, get people ready to go for the season, hopefully avoid any injuries. And yeah, let's just see. Hopefully, see some sort of tactical hint at how Ten Hag's going to play. Obviously, it's going to be difficult because we don't have everybody at the minute.
Yeah.
Shaw's not here, Mainu's not here, Xerxes not here, etc. And we haven't finished our transfer window by the looks of it either. So it's going to be difficult to figure out like tactically how it's going to be. But it'd be good to see like hints of stuff. It'd be good to see what he plans to do with Jadon Sancho because obviously he played him on the left the other day. And that's where he wants to play. It's like, so is that going to be our option on the left? It's going to be
But do you remember
Sancho,
last
Rashford.
preseason when he had him as a
Yeah,
centre forward?
so,
Like a false nine?
you know what I mean? So
He's just
you
gone
can
on,
read all sorts of stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, just minutes in the legs. Youth players like obviously Toby Collier's gone out there. I hope he gets some minutes. That what was he? Murray as well, the left back. He sort of outshone Harry Amas, in my opinion. But I'd love to see Harry Amas get minutes as well. That'd be good. Yeah, just young players get minutes to see where we're at. Obviously, Joe Hugo's gone on loan to Wigan, but I think Toby Collier might stick around the team. I think he might be the next guy to come through. So I think he sticks around the first team. But I hope Amas or Murray does as well because it seems like that if we don't buy a left back, we're probably going to need him because last year we obviously fucked up by letting Reguilon go back, and then they were like, "Oh yeah, none of Malacia or Shaw are going to be fit." So we're just like, "All right, well, what the fuck do we do now?" Because we've just sold Alvaro Fernandez to Benfica. So hopefully we have somebody around just in case because, like you mentioned, those two are not exactly fitness experts, are they?
Yeah, I mean, they get a small window to impress, don't they, the youngsters? It's like you've got 3-4 preseason games if you're lucky. You've got to shine there. If you don't, you know, this is a level Garnacho and Colbert. You don't get up to them levels. It's back to under 19s, under 21s, whatever. So they'll be chomping at the bit, especially players like Toby Collier. I'm just going. It's on at 1 o'clock tonight, man, because I really want to watch the game. I know it's only preseason, but like for reasons I mentioned before, but 1 o'clock in the morning, you're like, oh man, can you really stay up for that? Like, I mean, I'm gonna be tired anyway, but MUTV fucking media presenters are gonna be put me to sleep anyway.
No, I do. I put it on, but I mute it until the game comes on, and then I unmute it, but I turn it right down just so I don't have to hear the commentary because it
is so fucking bland, isn't it? That commentary. I'm not a hateful person, and I don't. But when I listen to that, I'm like, oh, shut the fuck up, please. It's the most ear-aching thing ever. They're so nicey nice, and everything's amazing. And did you see the?
It's propaganda.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. It's fucking. Never say a bad word about the club ever. Did you see the interview in Edinburgh when they had that guy with the third kit unreleased?
Oh yeah, and they went,
they didn't realise. Yeah, they didn't realise at first he was interviewing, and he was like, "Yeah, we should probably move on from it." That's from DH Gate. Like, let's fucking move on. Oh my god.
Funny.
On Arsenal, do you see them competing next year?
Yeah, like they did well last year. They were, I think, excellent for the most of the season. There was a couple of slip ups, but I really don't get why they're not going for a striker. I don't get it. I think that's the one piece missing from that team. I think they've got an excellent defense like Saliba, Gabriel, Ben White, and stuff. I think they've really, really well. Stockton Abbey got Timber coming back as well. Forget because they bought him. They did his ACL. The midfield like Rice and Odegaard, I think are fucking excellent players. And then you got Saka and sort of Martinelli and all that sort of stuff. And then just missing that number 9. I know Kai Havertz did all right. He did decently well for like what we expected from him. But he's not a pure number 9, is he? Like that's not who he is. Like he's a versatile player, but it's just not who he is. I don't understand why Ivan Toney's there 40, 50 million. It's easy deal to do. I just go do it.
I think they're looking at it like like Liverpool because Salah and Mane got so many goals for them. Obviously, they had Firmino in the middle. Maybe they're looking at like the actual output from our wingers in Saka and Martinelli when he's in form, and Trossard, for example. There's enough goals there, but maybe
Is
they're
it
like,
enough?
is it enough? Yeah, that's one question. And then the second question is, if we take Havertz out, we spent 70 million on him.
Yeah.
It doesn't work in the midfield because he tried that project anyway.
Yeah.
And then you bring a Tony into it. What do you do with Havertz then? So it's a bit of a it's a tricky situation.
I just think obviously City with the cyborg up front, he's getting them 20 odd goals, and that's normally what's going to push him across the line. I know everybody else is fantastic in that team, but he gets 25 goals. Like you know it's gonna happen. If Arsenal had that, you're probably going to push closer to completion. Like it's just I don't get it. I don't get it. It's bizarre to me how they're just like going, maybe not a striker, but maybe Arteta knows better. Maybe.
Yeah. But clubs in general, I mean, we'll get to that in a moment. Get any comments you have now for the next 5 minutes. Any questions, thoughts, feelings, opinions, whatever it is. Get it in the comment section, and we're going to go to that for the last part of the show. But just on, you mentioned about like business there and transfers and stuff. Why do you think clubs haven't done as much business? Like this window seems to be really quiet, doesn't it?
It's PSR, isn't it? I think that's what it is. It's like PSR concerns, FFP and stuff like that. Because obviously, if you're going to buy, say, a 50 million pound player, you then have to balance out. Well, I'm going to have to sell a couple of players to sort of make that up. I think the restrictions of like are really kicking in. You've seen teams like Everton and Villa doing these swap deals where they sort of sell a player to amortize it over the thing, but if they sell it, they get it counted on the books immediately. Like all these sort of dodgy dealings. I think that's why you've not seen a lot of sort of stuff like that happen. So maybe that's the reasoning. Like I think we've signed a couple of players. Arsenal signed one player. Arsenal signed one.
So Arsenal signed Calafiore. I think that's just being done now. That centre back from Bologna. Villa, I've signed quite a few players. But apart from that, I haven't really seen any other teams like who have City bought. That's unlike them. Who have Liverpool bought? No one.
No.
People moaning about FSG, by the way. I was saying like FSG out and all that kind of stuff.
City signed Savio, Savio, whatever his name, I can't remember.
Yeah, the winger, the Brazilian winger. But for City, I mean, by June, they'd signed Haaland, hadn't they? Like just done and dusted like that.
Yeah, I think this PSR, I know they're going to change it, aren't they? This PSR thing, it's changing. I don't think it's this season. I think it's 25, 26, I believe. And it's going to be a percentage of your revenue, I believe. So it's like you can spend 80% of your revenue on transfers and things. I think it's changing, I believe.
So it should.
I think they voted for it, I believe, in like the Premier League meeting. But obviously it doesn't come into effect this summer. So they're still operating under the current like PSR restrictions.
Yeah. I think it should, because the way it's running at the minute, I mean, Newcastle, they brought these people came in Saudi, and it was like, right, we're gonna go do what City did basically, and he was like, oh no, you can't do that anymore. No. And they're like, what do you mean we can't do it anymore? Like, no, you've got to sell to buy, and you got to do this. And it's like even Newcastle done no business whatsoever this summer, absolutely nothing.
Well,
basically what they're gonna do.
Don't they have to sell? Like,
so the same people have to sell like Isaac and a couple of other big ones. Guimaraes has been linked with moves to City and to Arsenal as well. So I whether I think it's fair or not, I don't know. I mean, you could do a full fucking podcast about it in itself, but
it's an argument.
It's bizarre, this window.
There's an argument.
Very, very weird.
There's an argument in there. Like, I think if you're an owner, you're rich. There's an argument there. It's like, why am I not allowed to put my own money into this club as much as I want? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, as long as the club is able to run, people are getting paid, like, things are getting taken care of, etc. There's an argument there. It's like, why can't the owner put as much money as he wants in? But then you get into the sort of weeds of like, well, where's this money coming from and stuff like that. Obviously, with the state ownership in Newcastle, Abu Dhabi, state ownership with City, the stuff with Chelsea where it's different conglomerates and stuff like that. That's where it sort of gets into the weeds a bit, and you're like, where's this money coming from? And then it's like, if you just allow everybody to speak and just put whatever in, it's just like, well, we're just inviting dictatorships and inviting oligarchs and stuff into the club, which they're already here. To be fair, they're already here. So yeah, it's a tricky situation. I think I am not a financial expert, so I couldn't give you an answer to what it is. But there's got to be a better way than the current system we have.
Yeah.
Because I just don't think it's. I don't think it's working.
Because even that, the revenue thing is an argument there. 'Cause it's like, all right, well, let's say United's revenue's 600 million per year.
Yeah.
So you can spend, I don't know, let's say 80% of that. You're like, well, you can fucking spend quite a lot of money.
Mm.
But then, like, I don't know, fucking Crystal Palaces or Southampton who just come up. What's their revenue per year? Like 200 million, so they can only spend 30, 40. Like,
I don't think it's based on how much. I think it's based on a percentage of whatever you think. So say your club is operating at a profit level of X, you can operate off that. So it's not based off like Crystal Palace at 200 million, United at 600, so they get to spend more. It's based off the percentage, knowing the sort of valuation in the gap rather than the
yeah,
physical amount. It's really complicated and
it
boring,
is, isn't it?
and it's
Need
fucking.
Kerry Maguire for that kind
Like,
of shit.
I know.
Like,
I need to message him and just be like, "Can you come
yeah.
back on the show and explain this to us idiots because we don't get it." It's really, you feel like you need a degree in accounting to understand all this shit, which is taking so much fun away from football. Because I just want to watch football, I want to enjoy games, and now I'm having to learn about this shit just to stay informed on why we're not buying players.
Yeah, agreed. It's an absolute minefield. Right, let's go to the comments then, because they're less of a minefield. Punch Paint says excited to see Odiele as well. Yeah, the midfielder looked decent. I thought he had a pretty good cameo in the last game. Stephanie Griffith saying, apart from confidence, does it matter if we don't win all our preseason games? But we must beat the Gooners, Scousers, and Cheetah. Yeah, they're the 3 games. I know what people say don't matter in preseason, but there's a little bit of, you don't want to get beat by Liverpool, do you? You don't want to get beat by Arsenal, even if it is preseason. So there's a bit of needle
You
there.
want to win. You want to win, but
Yeah,
at the end of the day, it doesn't matter because it's not the league, it's not a cup competition, and nobody really cares. But yeah, it's never nice to lose to those guys.
Yeah, I mean the Bangkok Cup always gets referenced because
Oh,
we
yeah.
beat Liverpool in that. Do you remember Ten Hag's first
Light
pre-season?
light up trophy. They had like lights
Yeah,
and stuff on it. Yeah, I remember that one.
Jesus. Ifran Kadeli says Uarte 70 million pay Bayern regret stop. No, okay. Almost had a stroke reading that, but okay. Let's get Uarte party started. I've seen quite a few people reporting that he's going to be with us after pre-season, like tweeting about it publicly, saying he's going to be done. So, I think that one's an interesting one.
Have they wrapped up the João Neves deal? PSG.
I think
Has
it's
that been
very,
announced?
very close. Very close.
Maybe once that happens, the Awate deal sort of accelerates a little bit because then they've got the
Mm,
replacement in. So obviously he's not going to play if you've got João Neves, Vitinha, Fabian Ruiz. I'm sure there's another one I'm missing. So he's just not going to get in that team, is he?
yeah. I'd like to see him come over. I mean, I would have liked someone like that in pre-season because I think a midfielder is so integral and so important to the way you play. So it would have been nice to have him in, but you know, you can't have everything you want, can you? I suppose. No. Very interesting night tonight. Like we said, we've got Arsenal versus Manchester United at 1 o'clock. So if you are staying up for that, then yeah, hopefully it's a good one. Exciting to watch. It's a bit more competitive than the past 2 games. And you can see all your favourite youngsters and stars out in the mix in America. I wish I was over there. I mean, I was watching like Paddock before and all these other guys who are over in like Los Angeles, where you've been obviously loads of times yourself. But I'm like, oh, it's so beautiful there, man. I'm so jealous. They're like speaking to Rude and they're like, oh my! Oh, I just want to be there. I just want to be there doing that.
One day you've heard it here first, like people in the chat and stuff like that. Like one day we will get there. We've got like 100,000 subscribers, and we could travel out there. We give you player interviews, and we give you stuff like that. One day we'll get there, but yeah, we'll just have to. For now, we'll sit in Manchester and sort of deal with it from here.
Do and drink from a chocolate mug. Yeah, that's what we will do from now. And yeah, we're going to go enjoy the rest of the weekend. We've got UFC tonight as well. We've got loads of stuff going. So let us leave your, whatever it is, your plans over the weekend, what you're doing. Leave a like on the video for us if you haven't already. And subscribe to the channel on 6,236. And we're aiming for 10k. That'll be a massive milestone for us. And yeah, if we get there, we're going to do some form of a celebration. So, as always, appreciate your company, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Me and Sam are out of here. If anything breaks, we'll go live, of course. But apart from that, we'll be back tomorrow for 12 o'clock, Sunday social. See you in a bit.
Follow all the socials, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all that stuff. All links are in the description. Peace.